What's up, guys? My name's Cody, and this is another UFC betting breakdown, this time for UFC 255, and we got Davison Figueiredo taking on Alex Perez, Valentina Shevchenko taking on Jennifer Maia, and there's several other pretty dope fights on this card, too. So, before we get into it, let's real quick talk about last week. Another profitable card. Didn't get all the bets right. We did miss on McKee. We missed on Brendan Allen. But we did score McKenna by decision. We got Chaos Williams as a 2-1 dog. McKenna by decision was plus 290. We had started off with 2 units on RDA. Ended up putting another unit on him live. So hopefully you guys went big on him too. We were live on Twitch, and I just could not help it. As the week got on, just get more and more confident. But so RDA won big for us. Not only did he give us 3 units straight at minus anywhere from 175 to like 180, I think, when I got the last one. But he also was in a parlay with Dontel Mays, which cashed as well. And then we got Gravely and the over for Mays versus Martinez, and that cashed as well. So both parlays cashed, which made it another profitable night. It was like plus 4 or 5 units, or I think like 4 units at least, maybe 4 to 5. Yep. And so another profitable card that puts me at I think that's at least 5. Yeah, it's 5 in a row again, and 17-3 since we started this YouTube channel. It's been 20 cards now. So shit, man, let's keep it up, and leave me a comment. Let me know any of these bets you've tailed, or anything you think, anything you bet that I didn't. I always try to get back to the comments, and I always do like to hear a second perspective. So appreciate you guys always showing love, dropping likes on the videos, leaving comments. It definitely helps, and I definitely appreciate it. And make sure you're following me on Twitch and Twitter, where I always am talking MMA. It's pretty much like all I do. I'm obsessed with this shit. But that's enough of that. I appreciate you guys. Let's get into this fight, this card, though. We got some pretty dope fights, but this first fight is definitely a weird one. Starting off the night, we got Luis Cosce taking on Sasha Palatnikov, and this is one I definitely had to go watch tape for, because I'm not going to lie to you. Other than when I watched the Cosce brothers fight on Dana White Contender Series, I had never seen Sasha fight. And going into that, Luis, I think, was an underdog in that fight. And honestly, him and his brother had some pretty dominating wins. And I mean, he looked pretty good. Obviously, not a whole lot of experience, but he's 7-0, 7 finishes in the first round, 5 by strikes, 2 submissions, and only even one. I think only 2 of them went outside of 2 minutes. And yeah, I mean, definitely so far, you watch the tape, there's not a whole lot to watch. I mean, he obviously, it's not against the highest of competition, but I mean, he's gone in against them and done exactly the best you possibly can do. I've been, seeing a lot of people taking him first round knockout in this fight, and I can see why you would, but I found a different prop I kind of like. But before we get into that, let's look a little in Sasha. 5-2. Both of his losses are by finish by strikes. But you can't give him too much shit for this Laziz loss. A lot of us just saw Laziz against Abdul Razik Al Hassan, who didn't look great last week against Chaos Williams. I mean, I guess I can't say he didn't look great. He just got starched in 5 seconds, so it's hard to take a whole lot out of it. But Laziz had a great performance in his UFC debut, and I mean, this guy could be a pretty legit prospect. But getting knocked out in the first round, regardless, never a good look, and especially not to a guy named Emmanuel Verdier, who was 1-1 at the time and is now 5-4. Both of his losses by knockout. He's fighting out of Hong Kong, and he obviously, as you can see here, 3-4. Other than Laziz, he really hasn't fought anybody. It's lower level competition, And, you know, at least when you fight against his lower competition, his opponent, Luis Cosce, at least he's going in there and dominating these guys. You know, if you watch Sasha, man, this guy's takedown defense is not that great. And if he gets taken down, it's just like he's not very good off of his back. He doesn't seem to have, like, be really, like, a submission threat off of his back, which could, you know, I was looking for a path to victory because when I saw, you know, a UFC debuter, Luis Cosce, who went into his Dana White Contender Series fight, an underdog, and then I see him coming in as like 4-1 in his UFC debut. The first thing I looked at on this card, like I almost just blind bet Sasha. I'm not even gonna lie to you, because +3, like, or whatever, -4 -400 in your UFC debut, like, I'm going to look for any fucking reason to bet that. Unfortunately, like, it's hard to find when it just seems like Cosce's kind of got him beat everywhere. I mean, Sasha is going to have, like, a height and reach advantage now. You will hear me saying over and over that height and reach isn't an advantage unless you use it. But, you know, he's also probably going to be the bigger guy. I mean, I've been watching some interviews with Cosce, and he's talking about how he's been working, like, especially because he's had a couple opponents pull out leading to the Sasha fight. He's been just primarily working on, like, getting bigger, stronger, filling out for 170, because before this fight he was talking a lot about going to 155. I went back and watched some interviews, and I went back and watched him after his last fight where he was talking about it. And, you know, he was definitely an undersized 170er. Like, honestly, he even looks like a little bit like Colby, and then he really, like, has, like, a similar body style. But, you know, Colby's even, like, I don't think this guy, honestly, he looks like more like 5'10" in there, 5'9", really. But Colby is obviously a little bit taller, but, you know, I think Louis is starting to fill out a little bit. You know, he's talked a lot about it. He's talked about getting, like, with a real strength and conditioning coach, and I think that'll help him in this fight. The thing that I was really looking at, because when I'm watching Sasha against lower level competition, his grappling does not look impressive. And I know Luis is talking, you know, he likes to come out and just bang, knock guys out in a minute. But, you know, you see him, he's not been training at Alpha Male. He's been training at home, where he says, like, he does a lot of, like, wrestling and jiu-jitsu. I mean, obviously they do a lot of wrestling over at Alpha Male too, but he says, you know, it was, like, too far of a drive. He's been training locally. But sometimes, like, I've seen some people like, oh, that's not a good sign. It's like, sometimes it's nice to have a camp that's built around you. And I don't know, I liked what he was saying in the interview. He was talking about, like, you know, now, at the same time, he has put out other posts talking about, I'm going to knock this guy out, this and that. But I like this interview, which was just, like, pretty recent. It was, like, a couple days ago, where he was talking about, you know, he'll take the win however it comes. And he has 2 wins by submission. I don't like what I've seen so far of Sasha's ground game. And honestly, I saw Cosce by sub 14-1 when I know he has a huge wrestling and jiu-jitsu advantage here. Honestly, probably going to take a little shot on that. I see why you would take. I saw inside round 1, or Cosce round 1 is like -110. I don't know. I mean, I do think he's going to get Sasha out of there. And it's probably going to be a knockout, TKO. But honestly, like, I can't rule the sub out. And 14-1, man, it might be worth a little sprink cow. So that's something to keep in mind. Yeah, I'm gonna take Luis here. Honestly, like, I know I just said I like the sprinkle on sub, but I honestly feel like a lot of times when they get into the UFC under the bright lights for real, this is when these guys who are like 10-0, 10 first round knockouts, they get their first decision. But I honestly feel like he's gonna knock Sasha out. Sasha just seems pretty hittable, man. And like, I literally went into this like, there ain't no way I'm taking Luis here. So it's either gonna be dog or pass. then it kind of turned into prop or pass because I just don't see a path to victory for Sasha. So honestly, give me Luis here by first round KO TKO, but seriously might take a little stab at Cosce by sub because like I heard him talk plenty about like using his wrestling and like how he's been working it primarily, like his grappling, and he sees a grappling advantage in this fight. And like, I mean, I just feel like if he takes Sasha down, he might just start pounding on him and then just get that club and sub. Sasha might just be getting overwhelmed in there, give up that neck. And I know it scared me a little bit. Like, is he just going to be like trying to smash or bust? But honestly, I feel like he'll take the neck if Sasha gives it to him. So give me Luis by first round KO, but I might take a look at that prop. And that's enough time on that. Let's move on to the second fight. Next up, we got Kyle Daukaus making his neck, coming off that fight against Brendan Allen, and he's taking on Dustin Stoltzfus. God, I butchered it last time I broke him down too. But Dustin coming off that Contender Series win, he slammed his opponent and then dislocated his shoulder, like broke his shoulder or something. It was pretty weird. I actually had money on that fight, and then I felt kind of like, okay, look at me, I'm a genius. I had him in a bunch of two parlays, and he won on by the fucking shoulder injury, and I was like, okay, yeah, I called that, Mystic Cody. But no, I mean, I did see the wrestling gonna be into play, and that's spoiler alert, where I think it could come into play in this fight. I mean, first of all, like before we even get to breaking down the fight, like hold on, I know it says minus 265 right now, but honestly, let me take a quick little look because I honestly think it's worse right now. Yeah, Daukaus is 3-1, and let me just start this off by saying no disrespect to Kyle Daukaus because honestly, I was impressed in his last performance against Brendan Allen. Now, Brendan Allen didn't look so amazing in his last fight, but hey, Sean Strickland is high level, and can't just start writing him off because of that. That was big experience gap, and shit, Sean Strickland has looked fucking great lately. So, props to Sean Strickland, but Kyle Daukaus, man, while he did have a pretty good performance in that last fight, albeit a loss, minus 300 against really anybody in this division. Like, how can you bet 3-1 Kyle Daukaus against anybody yet? When he was 9-0 coming into that fight, 8 of which by sub over just lower level competition. Now his jiu-jitsu is pretty legit. He's dangerous down there, but you can really people really bet Kyle Daukaus when he was already minus 265 up to 320 on some books. I get that, it's weird. His recency bias is crazy because even though it was a loss, the fucking narrative is oh man, Kyle Daukaus gave Brendan Allen a run for his money, and literally that narrative has pushed the line even higher, which is honestly crazy. So Dustin, his last win was pretty, it was a weird one, and they didn't really get into the fight. And another thing is, if you go through, he has fought the greatest opponents. You look at these guys, okay, he's fighting We Love MMA over there in Germany, and it's not the absolute worst competition. I've seen much worse. We'll see much worse out of some people on the card later on, but it's he hasn't had to fight. He hasn't had the tough test yet. Only lost by decision. Kyle Daukaus only lost by decision both once. Two really tough guys, hard to finish. I just feel like the wrestling could really come into play for this one. And I don't know. I mean, I do see Kyle as a submission threat, but this is a fight that I really like. If you don't want to pick a side on this, I really feel like the safe bet is taking the fight goes the decision line, because neither of these guys have really like knockout power on the feet. I mean, if either of them does, I would say Dustin, but I mean, he's just more of a wrestler. Yeah, I mean, and Kyle Daukaus has proved, like, let's say Dustin takes him down, gets the ground and pounding, like, this dude Kyle is willing to take some fucking punishment, man. So, like, both these dudes are tough. I don't see either of them like getting pounded out. Like, they'll just fight through it. A lot of times, man, you'd be surprised how many of those times it's just like you're just overwhelmed and you just realize you're just not the best. You're not winning this fight. But these are two guys that are like, they're gonna go out on their shield. So I don't know. I feel like this fight's going to decision. And honestly, like, I like to take a little stab on Dustin because I seriously feel like this fight is a toss-up. Like, can you really tell me that you are that confident in Kyle to what's his path to victory here? Like, that gives you 3-1. Is he a slightly better striker? Maybe. Okay. You could say that. And there's our two grapplers. This fight's probably going to play out on the feet a lot. And maybe I'll lean Kyle Daukaus a little bit. But I don't know, man. Dustin is just like his teammates and a lot of these, like, yeah, he's fought lower level guys, but, you know, like, there's a lot. I've been watching some interviews with, like, the few interviews you can find of him, and then, you know, his coach, a couple teammates. And yeah, you don't want to listen too much to teammates and coaches, but like man, they just go on and on about this dude, and like his jiu-jitsu, his wrestling's pretty legit. I don't feel like he's gonna get caught in anything by Kyle. And I don't think Kyle can take him down, but I think Dustin, I mean, he can, but I don't think he will. I don't, and even if he can once, I don't think he can control Dustin. I just feel like the wrestling advantage has got to go to Dustin. The slight strike advantage, okay, I'll give it to Kyle, but the wrestling, man, it opens up so much. And you can't, unless somebody has like a huge jiu-jitsu or striking advantage, even sometimes with jiu-jitsu it doesn't matter. If you're going to tell me the opponent has a wrestling advantage and he's fucking, and you want to say the other guy's 3-1, I can't. So I'm personally taking a stab on Dustin. I think this fight should be a pick'em, and I don't bet fights based on lines. I really try to like pick winners, but like at the same time, man, like this is an odds game, and you're gonna tell me a guy's 3-1, but there's no real super easy clear path to victory for him. This is gonna be a close fight, and I think that these takedowns and that top game from Dustin could seriously like edge out a decision here. I'm gonna take fight goes the decision. I think I already have that bet, and I also have Dustin at plus 260, I believe. And like, I like both of those bets. I honestly think this is a pick'em, and I think there's a good chance that I'm even more confident that this fight goes to decision. So give me Dustin Stoltz. That's what I'm gonna call him, by decision. Dustin Stoltzfus, my man. And moving on to the third fight, we got Alan Jouban taking on Jared Gooden. And it's weird. I honestly didn't know if we were gonna see Jouban back. It feels like even though it hasn't been that long, I don't know. It just kind of seemed like it makes me think like, what is he really doing this for? I mean, obviously like because he loves the game, but you know, getting up there almost 39 and like, dude, he's he's good on the desk. He doing his thing with the podcast. And I'm honestly like, I wouldn't be surprised if this is his last fight, and that is why it makes me a little, weary betting a guy who I just don't know if he's all in this. It seems like the UFC is trying to throw him like, hey, I mean, at the same time, this could go. This is a win-win for the UFC. You either give this guy who's gonna be like setting up his spot on the desk for you this last chance at a highlight, or you can use that name that he's built for himself to give Jared a little shine. And Allen, shit, people want to call him like the pretty boy and shit for obvious reasons, but he's a male model. But man, honestly, like, you can't discount this dude's skills, man. His striking's pretty legit, and he goes after it. But he just hasn't been able to take damage very well. But I mean, if you look at some of the guys he's fought, I mean, shit. The later end of his UFC career, Bilal Muhammad, Mike Perry, Gunnar Nelson, Nico Price, Ben Saunders, Dwight Grant. Even Dwight Grant, I mean, like, he gets a lot of hate, but that dude friggin' swings him, man. And, like, he goes after it. That dude's a beast. Honestly, almost won his last fight. I was a little heated at that weird stoppage, but we'll talk about D-Rod a little bit later. But that was a crazy first round. Yeah, Alan Jouban, he's gonna have a massive experience advantage. I mean, if you compare these opponents to Jared Gooden's opponents, I mean, there's no comparison. I mean, lost to Mike Graves, and got knocked out against Bruno Oliveira, and then other than that, it's like 3-13. Trent McCown, Ladarius Jackson. Oh man, I mean, there's no comparison. I mean, this guy just hasn't fought anybody on the level of UFC caliber, really. I mean, Mike Graves probably has the most potential out of all these guys, and man, he was just a spotty guy. Honestly, he should have been better, but just spotty. But Alan Jouban, he gets a lot of shit, but man, I honestly feel like he's kind of a level above Jared Gooden. The only thing that throws me off is just knowing that, just don't know if Jouban's fully committed to this, while Jared Gooden, this is gonna be everything. This man's gonna show up he's 20, or I mean, he's about to be 27. That he's entering his prime, and I mean, I actually he's probably got 2 years before then, and I mean, he's got a decent amount of fights. He just hasn't fought anybody good yet. No disrespect, and I do think this is gonna be unless Jouban decides to make it a little bit of a slower pace fight, I do think this is gonna there's a good chance someone's gonna get knocked out. Jouban's gonna be the only one who's capable of slowing it down and making it more of we're gonna slow down and kickbox, and I'm just gonna chip away at you. But I wouldn't be surprised if Jouban's you know what, fuck it. Honestly, if I beat Jared Gooden, I'm 39. Unless he's maybe I can get a quick turnaround. Man. Honestly, I kind of feel like this might be a spot where he's fuck it. This is I'm not gonna have too many more chances for a little highlight reel. Honestly, Jouban is he's just a little bit. He's just so much more proven. He should beat Jared Gooden. If he can't beat Jared Gooden, this is probably gonna be the last time we see Jouban. And I honestly think Jouban's gonna get a TKO here. I just feel while Jared could catch him with something big, I just have to see him do something even when he's fighting these mid-level guys, even when he's winning the fights, he doesn't he's not impressing me a ton. He's got decent striking. He's explosive. He could definitely catch Jouban with something, but I don't know. Jouban's just a higher level striker. The feints, the kicks, that he's got those knees up the middle, good elbows. I don't know. He's just got more tools, and I'd have to lean Jouban to either get a TKO or unless he comes out. It's really going to be up to Jouban what kind of fight we get here. He could decide, like, I'm going to slow. If he turns it into, like, a kickboxing match, I honestly think he easily wins this fight. But I wouldn't be surprised if he makes it into a brawl, and, I mean, he could get clipped. But I don't really see that happening. He should win. Even at 39 years old, like, he's just a little bit a level above Jared Gooden. So give me Alan Jouban, and we'll go second round TKO. Moving into the fourth fight, we got Nicholas Dalby taking on D-Rod Daniel Rodriguez. And this fight's pretty dope, man. I like this fight. Like, Dalby, man, he broke my heart in the last fight. Like, he's actually, through these 20 fights that I've broke down on YouTube, that was probably my biggest, like, parlay buster. Because I've honestly had Bobby Green when he got screwed in that decision. I don't want to talk about it. And our boy Tanner Bozer, when I thought he won that decision, but it was very close. I won't complain about that one. Honestly, Andre landed the bigger shots. I just thought the leg kick should have been. Judges don't score leg kicks as much as headshots. It's just a fact. You just got to take that into account. But, can't complain about that one. But the biggest, like, real parlay buster, or wasn't like a spotty decision, was Nicholas Dalby in his last fight. Now, I got to say, Jesse Ronson did just pop for PEDs. They just changed that to a no contest right here. So now back to saying that our boy Dalby has never been finished. Now, technically, that went down as a rear naked choke, but, if you watched it, he basically got knocked out. He caught him with a huge punch, dropped him, and then rear naked choked him. But even though he had never been finished before that, man, if you go through his fights, like, he really does take punishment. And, like, Dalby doesn't... It's, like, weird. It's one of those weird ones where, like, he doesn't get finished, but, like, he takes a good amount of punishment, and, like, it's weird. You want to call him durable because he doesn't get finished, but, like, it doesn't ever seem like he, like, takes big shots very well. Like, it does seem to affect him. I mean, it's gonna affect anybody, but it affects him a little bit more. Like, I don't know. I've always, like, his past couple of fights, I have felt like it's coming, like, that chin's gonna crack. And D-Rod, not known for, like, having a ton of power, but the volume is where he makes up for the power. Only loss coming from Victor Reina, split decision. Other than that, 13 wins, got some good, like, chokes. Front headlock series is pretty nice. Got Darce's guillotines. Until he came to the UFC, like, obviously not the best competition, but, had a nice win against Tim Means, even though, that got a little dicey for a little bit. And then the Gabe Green took that fight on short notice and was a huge underdog going into that fight, making his UFC debut. And, I mean, Gabe was tough as shit, and while D-Rod did decisively win, it was like, damn, it was kind of a disappointing performance because he didn't get him out of there, and, he was kind of expected to get him out of there. So, and then in his last fight, I actually had Dwight Grant in that fight, and as a nice underdog, and Dwight caught him early, and shit, I mean, props to D-Rod. He just stuck in there, and it was almost weird because he was out of it for a minute there, and then, like, he rocks Dwight back, and they stopped it pretty quick. I mean, Dwight was rocked to the body, but I don't know. I am not gonna lie, I kind of felt like they didn't give Dwight as much of a chance to get back as they gave D-Rod, but you'd have to go back and watch it and tell me if you agree with that. But regardless, D-Rod's last 3 performances, there has been spots where, where he you could say he underperformed. I mean, he was in control of the whole Gabe Green fight, but, he was supposed to go in there and finish him. And would have loved to see him against Brian Barberena or Takashi Sato, but those were canceled. And Dalby, it's like Dalby will have a bit maybe of a cardio advantage and a wrestling advantage, but I just feel like if he gets D-Rod down, he won't be able to control him. And if he really does come out with a heavy wrestling game, I feel like he could get either gonna get cracked with something like coming in, or he's gonna gas out from just wrestling so much, like shooting the amount of takedowns that'll be necessary to win these rounds against D-Rod, at least win 2 of them, and then not get finished in the third. It's just going to take a lot of energy for that game plan. And I honestly, D-Rod's really good in that front headlock position. He's got good chokes there, Darce, Anaconda, guillotines. And while he hasn't landed all of them in his professional fight career, he goes for him, he sets him up, he's chaining him into other shit. And I honestly feel like Dalby, he's gonna get finished here. I know that he's technically never been finished. No, we know he has. Jesse Ronson, yeah, he might have been on the Peds, but he was still a lightweight coming in on short notice, and getting doused like that was not a good look. And I said, maybe that was the only time he's been finished, but I've seen him rocked several times, and I would not I think there's a good chance D-Rod gets him out of there. I saw some people some props for D-Rod by sub. But I do like D-Rod as a parlay piece. Sorry, it's late. But what I also like is I went ahead and took the fight starts round 3, minus 115. Everybody is just really I do think that D-Rod is gonna get a finish, but I think it's gonna take a little bit of time. And honestly, if Dalby wins, it's gonna be I don't think he can finish D-Rod. So it's a bit of a double, a win-win. It's a bit of a hedge because I am gonna have D-Rod in a good amount of parlays here. So if I think there's a good amount of chance it could be a late finish here on Dalby, but at the same time, I think if Dalby wins, it'd be by decision. So like I said, I'm gonna take the fight starts round 3, and I'm also gonna put D-Rod. I have him in. I'll read him off at the end, but I believe 2 parlays right now. Might end up being 3. I like D-Rod here. He's one of my most confident picks on the card. He's just I don't know. At this point of Dalby's career, I just don't know how much left he's going to have against the upper echelon of the division, because I don't know. I mean, it's not like he's losing a lot of fights. It's just I don't know, man. I just haven't really liked his last couple performances, and I think he's left out a blueprint to beat him, and I think he's going to get finished here, but I think it's going to be a late finish. Could be submission, could be KO, so I'm not going to chase it on which it's going to be unless I'm going to keep looking around, but at least not yet. But I do think that Dalby's going to be getting cracked on the feet, and it's going to make him start shooting. He's going to get desperate for these takedowns, and he's going to get caught in one of these, whether it's a guillotine or an anaconda or he eats a big uppercut. I just feel like a third round finish, and give me D-Rod. He is sizable favorite, but I think it's justified. Maybe it's a little wider than it should be because it has come down since then. I got it at a lower price than that. I'd have to look. I think it was really 3-1 now at this point. Yeah, 3-1. So it's come down. People have taken shots on Dalby. And I think that the line could be like a little wider than it should be. I mean, I think it's justified to be like still 3-1. But I mean, even would I have matched it like minus 270? Yeah, probably. But that Dalby's last performance, doesn't help the line. But regardless, D-Rod, pretty heavy on him. I got us that slight hedge with. I mean, I'm not even gonna. It's either gonna be a double down or a hedge because I'm really confident that Dalby's not gonna finish D-Rod. He is coming off, a pretty short, like quick turnaround from taking a good amount of damage against Dwight Grant. I will say that, but I don't know, man. He's a tough guy. His chin seems to be like. Both of these guys have been pretty durable, but I think D-Rod's the more durable guy at this point. So give me D-Rod, and I'm gonna go 3rd round TKO. And next up, we got Antonina Shevchenko taking on Ariana Lipski. And not going to lie to you, this is probably the fight I'm least interested on the card. I mean, hate to be this guy, but, don't hate looking at these two girls. But let's just get that out of the way. Okay, I love watching Valentina Shevchenko, and Antonina gets a lot of shit. She's not a terrible fighter at all. I mean, obviously she's not terrible. She's in the fucking UFC, but I'm comparing her to other UFC fighters. She gets a lot of shit, but, I mean, honestly, for someone who's, like, lower level, like, her 2 losses, Roxanne Modafferi and Caitlin Chookagian, those are, I know Roxanne gets a lot of shit herself, but, I mean, she had a lot of experience on Antonina. And, I mean, it was a split decision. And Roxanne, she just has a lot of advantage over Antonina. And, I mean, Caitlin exploited that, too, when she just came out and looked like a fucking wrestler in that fight. Like, looked like an Olympian in that fight. But, Antonina, though, when I looked at this, I thought about taking a dog shot on Lipski because, Antonina's ground game is obviously very suspect. But, man, the problem is, like, Lipski, she is coming off that nice sub win against Luliana Carolina, but, Luliana Carolina, like, pretty lower level. And one thing, she did have the submission there, it's like, that was pretty circumstantial to that scramble. It's not like she was out there wrestling her. And, man, I went back and, like, watched her fights, and it's like, man, the wrestling is just not really there. I really don't, like, I feel like this fight's just going to take place on the feet. And, honestly, I know Antonina gets a lot of shit, but, like, her kickboxing, her stand-up game is honestly probably just a little bit more polished than Ariane. And, yeah, I mean, if Lipski can get it to the mat, like, she's going to have an advantage there. Like, most people in the division are over Shevchenko. She's just a fucking legitimate striker. But, or when I just mean, she is not a grappler. She has not been grappling very long. But, Lipski, the problem is, can you get it to the mat? And a lot of these, like, lower level women's MMA fights where neither of them really have wrestling, but they're, at least one of them is like a straight up striker, that it's just going to end up becoming like a kickboxing match. This is going to be a fucking who lands the most volume, and if it plays out like that, Antonina's going to edge out a decision. So the real bet here would honestly be the over, or if fight goes the decision. I mean, if you don't want to, it's going to be juice, so I would understand not wanting to lay that chalk, but that's honestly the only real play on this that I would take is either the over, or maybe you take Antonina by decision. I don't think she's going to finish Ariane, but I just can't. I'm just going to hate myself if I bet either of these, and it doesn't happen. This is going to be volatile. This could go a lot of ways, but I mean, it's going to go one way in the terms of how it finishes, and that's going to be by decision. I mean, unless there's a scramble and they go to the mat and Lipski lands a submission, this fight's going to decision. So, I thought about parlaying Antonina Lipski fight goes to decision. Maybe I end up doing that. Looking at lines as I'm talking. But maybe I end up parlaying that. But, it's going to be like 3-1, something like that. Haven't even looked, but I know it is. Yeah, other than fight goes to decision or the over, which is going to be extremely juicy, you're going to have to parlay it, and then you just got to hope Lipski doesn't land on another knee bar. But other than that, this fight goes to decision. I'm going to lean Antonina by decision, but wouldn't bet on this gut fight. Just take the over and parlay it or stay off of it. But moving into a much more exciting fight, no offense, we got Joaquin Buckley taking on Jordan Wright. And Joaquin Buckley coming off that fucking, was it the greatest knockout of all time? It very well might have been. Absolutely crazy. Impa Kasaganai, man, it was a good fight, pretty back and forth, and then catches the kick, and Buckley just hits him with just an absolute Mortal Kombat finisher. And Jordan Wright, definitely not as decisive, but hey, got to give it to him. Pretty decent debut. He fought Ike Villanueva, who is probably the slowest man on the roster, but came out and hit him with that immediate spinning back kick to the head, or was it a wheel kick? I don't know, one of the two. And then fucking just went absolute ham in the clinch and opened up this with some knees and elbows and opened up a nasty cut on Ike Villanueva. Now, honestly, I would have loved to see that fight. Like, obviously, they couldn't because that cut was savage, don't get me wrong. But I'm just saying, I would be interested to see how that fight goes if it plays out, because I'm just not sold on this guy, man. First thing I gotta say when I talk about Jordan Wright is, I'm sorry, and I just can't pull punches because this is man, I get trying to build your fighter's experience. This is just straight up bully shit. I'm sorry, but I gotta root against you forever, man. You go through this guy's beginning of his career, 0-0, 0-0, 0-5, 0-0, 0-21, 0-10, 0-0, 1-2. 7-3, 6-0. Wasn't a no contest. He got knocked out in 40 seconds. That was his first step up on Dana White Contender Series. He was 8-0. He had only fought 2 guys that ever had a win. 1 guy with a winning record in his whole career. 1 guy with a winning. He was 8-0. He was 7-0 and had never fought a guy with a winning record. Or wait, yeah, no. I'm going to say that right the first time. 8-0, had never fought a guy with a winning record. Beat 1 guy with a winning record, and then immediately the UFC's like, okay, we're going to give you this shot at Anthony Hernandez, a.k.a. feed you, because them scouts already know what's up. They're like, oh, nice, pretty record for Anthony Hernandez to gobble that up. And 40 seconds, absolutely obliterated him. Popped for weed, so they took that away. But he is not undefeated. He was knocked out in 40 seconds. The only legitimate fighter he's fought. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but it's just, Gabriel Checo, okay, all right, actually, I don't want to disrespect him. That's much better than these other guys that he's fighting. And even Craig Wilkerson, at least these are LFA guys, these Alaska FC. I'm Alaskan. I was born in Fairbanks. But these Alaskan promotions, they just put on some of these squash matches. Seriously, man, a 4-0 against 0-21, and he spinning back kicked him in 10 seconds. My God, that is absolutely pathetic. You are a bully. I'm sorry. But more importantly, let's get into this fight. And honestly, just like bullies, and I'm sorry, but I just gotta say it, like, it's just a little bit annoying to me. But, like, everybody pulls their punches on this, but it's like, yeah, let's call it what it is. But to get into, like, it actually comes into the technical aspect because, honestly, like, when you watch Jordan fight, like, he does not like to get hit, man. He is a hammer, not a nail. That's why these type of people have these resumes. God is one step up. One guy who was about that shit came out and just straight up obliterated him. And man, Buckley, like, if there's one thing we know about Buckley, it's this motherfucker is going to come forward and throw heat. And, like, I don't know if fucking Jordan Wright can take the power. Like, I'm not just saying this because of that last knockout. Take that knockout away, and I'm telling you, it's the same breakdown, man. Because fucking Joaquin is gonna come forward just let me see that Kevin Holland fight, and this is the exact breakdown I'm giving you. Because in that loss, I had Kevin Holland in that fight and a bunch of parlays, but well, not a actually, I had him. I remember being a little sweaty during that fight because I was like, "Whew, man!" Didn't know he was just gonna come out with the fucking just game plan, like, I'm gonna take Kevin Holland's head off. And if he comes out with that game plan against Jordan Wright, yeah, there's a chance he fucking eats a kick, eats a head kick, eats a knee. Like, Jordan Wright, yeah, I've just fucking said some negative shit about him, but honestly, like, he's got some good kicks. He's got some fucking, they gave him a pretty decent nickname, the Beverly Hills Ninja, for a reason, because this man honestly does have some, like, I'm not huge on a lot of these flashy, crazy kicks. All, like, if you overuse them. No, obviously we're just talking about Buckley just hit, like, literally the greatest KO of all time. But at the same time, like, hey, man, if the shit works, and that kick he landed on Ike Villanueva, that shit, honestly, like, that was clean. And he's got good kicks, good knees, good elbows, and he could catch Buckley with something. But, man, I don't know if Wright can, like, withstand the fucking power and the pressure that Buckley's going to put on him. I honestly think that somebody's going to sleep here, and I lean it's going to be Jordan. I don't even technically think he's going to go to sleep. I just think he's going to get clipped with something. He's going to go down and turtle up. Like, I think Buckley's just going to be a little too much for him in that small cage, man. I know this line's going to be a little blown up because of that last knockout. That sucks because this would be like, you'd only be like probably 2-1 over Wright. Maybe not even that with Wright's fucking little padded up record. And Buckley coming off the loss. If it wasn't for that last fight, like, we would have got if you just take away the entire last fight, not only the crazy knockout, this is literally probably like, he's probably like minus 150. Like, it's crazy. But so we missed out on that. But I still am going to have Buckley as a parlay piece. Honestly, wouldn't blame me if you took like the under 1.5, but I'm going to lay off that. I don't really love taking 1.5s unless I'm going over, honestly, because you just never know if somebody's like, you know what, I'm going to take a round off, and then you just have half a round, and then they get to the second half of the second round, and you're just like, want to bang your head into a wall. But, I like Buckley here. I think he's going to knock him out probably in the first or second round. And I see some people taking shots on Jordan Wright, and I just, like, I gotta see him, like, the one time, okay, even in the Ike Villanueva fight, it was like that, yeah, it was a nasty cut, but, like, man, it was not like I walked away from that fight, like, I mean, yeah, it was a nice kick, it was some nice knees and elbows, but, like, what happens if he doesn't get him out of there in that first round with that crazy barrage? Like, I want to see somebody, like, I want to see him take some damage, I want to see him get taken down, like, I need to see these things before I can really bet on him, because I'm just not sold on him. You cannot beat a bunch of guys who have never got a win and impress me. Like, you just can't. So, like, give me Buckley. I think he'll get a finish here. And I'm willing to pay the juice and put him on some parlays. And let's move on to the next one. Next up, I think this is going to be fight of the night. This is going to be a great fight. We got Brandon Moreno taking on Brandon Royval, And Brandon Royval coming off that win over Kai Kara-France. That was a crazy fight. I mean, he did finish Kai Kara-France with that guillotine, but if you remember, it was pretty crazy. Like, he caught Kai Kara-France, or Kai Kara-France caught him first, then he caught Kai Kara-France, then he snatched up the gilly, and even before then, it was a pretty back and forth competitive fight. And even in the Tim Elliott fight, it's like Tim Elliott, man, he just he gets caught in these bad positions, usually with submissions. But I mean, it was a pretty crazy fight. And before then, he did lose a decision to Casey Kenny. That's his only loss. Actually, he had another split decision loss by Nick Urso, but just in the UFC. And then, all of his losses are by decision. Both of these, LFA, Combate, he's right now only lost by decision, and Brandon Moreno only lost by decision too. Two super durable guys. Actually, this one doesn't count as a professional fight, but he did lose in the Ultimate Fighter to Pantoja. He's actually lost to Pantoja twice, but Moreno did get submitted in the house. But two super durable guys. I mean, if anybody's going to get a finish here, I would lean Brandon Royval. Early on in the week, I wanted to take a shot on Royval, plus 170. He's lost some of these decisions against, at least these first two. Not the highest level of competition, but, Casey Kinney's super legit. And Nick Urso, definitely not a terrible loss, And, I mean, hasn't been able to fight until these last couple fights, the best competition. But man, I mean, his style, he can finish. I honestly feel like he can finish a lot of guys in the flyweight division. The only thing is, man, the big thing that throws me off is Brandon Moreno. He just has the cleaner boxing, and he honestly has a bit of a wrestling advantage here too. And if you look at his resume, it's just higher level guys. I mean, fought Pantoja as well. Sergio Perez. He actually got rear naked choked on in the Ultimate Fighter house as well. And Louis Smoka. And down here, okay, it's not that till he came to the UFC, it wasn't the best competition. But since then, Pantoja twice. You got Ryan Benoit, Dustin Ortiz, Sergio Perez. Askar Askarov, who I'm really high on. The dude's a beast. Went to a draw. Kai Kara-France as well. Wasn't as dominant. I mean, Royval got clipped a couple times in that fight, but did take him to decision. But that Juzia Formiga win, that's pretty big, man. Formiga's, he's tough. He's hard to beat. And Moreno, he is going to have just the sharper boxing, wrestling advantage. Maybe, I mean, both these guys have good cardio, but I do like Moreno's just experience to win rounds. I feel like at the same time Royval has the finishing advantage, or if anybody's gonna get the finish, it's probably gonna be Royval. It's probably be by sub, because man, Moreno's, these are two tough ass bastards. I mean, all 9 of their losses combined are all decision, which is pretty crazy. And these are flyweights, so you do factor that in. This is probably gonna go to decision, but early on in the week I did nab Royval at plus 170 because I didn't know if that line was gonna drop a ton, and then I would decide a little bit later after going back over the tape what I was gonna ultimately do. And man, honestly, the best way I could do to play, I could find to play it, as much as I wanted to just ride with my boy Raw Dog, is I got Brandon Royval at plus 170, and then I took Brandon Moreno by decision at plus 140, because I feel like if anybody gets a finish here, it's going to be Royval. So I hedged out a little bit. Either of those outcomes, I make some money. Royval wins. Obviously, I'm going to make some underdog cash. Moreno wins. I'm still getting plus money by decision. The only way I don't win money is if Moreno gets a finish. don't see that happening. So that's gonna be my way to play it. If you're at this point and you didn't lay in early on me, then maybe you just stay off. I'm just gonna enjoy this fight. If you have a prop for like fight of the night, I've been seeing some people talking about that. I think that's a pretty good play. I think that was my boy Paul Shaughnessy. Shout out to him. That is a pretty good call. I might follow him with that one. Yeah, moving on. Give me. I mean, if you're asking me if it was a even line, I'd probably say Brandon Moreno by decision. But I do think, like, man, I just saw plus 170 as soon as, like, I took a look at the line like a week ago, and I was like, oh, well, that's going to be my first bet because I feel like this is a pick 'em. The more tape I've watched, I'm like, okay, Moreno, just a little bit crisper, a little bit more polished, better, more experience, fought the better guys. Maybe I'll hedge out a little bit. So I like those bets. I'm still confident that I'm come away with a profit off that fight. So give me Brandon Moreno by decision, but I don't blame you if you wanted to take a dog shot on Royval. And moving on, we got the rematch that nobody asked for. Mauricio Shogun Rua taking on Paul Craig. And their first fight was crazy, man. Paul Craig came out and literally obliterated him in the first round, which nobody expected. Everybody expected. I mean, Paul Craig was put in that fight because his weakness is, the chin power punchers. And they were praying Mauricio was going to get one more and knock him out and propel him into this last run. And like they've been trying to do Shogun a solid, who's almost 39 now. And, like, in this fight, it's like, in the last fight, Paul Craig came out, literally did exactly what nobody expected, and just, like, destroyed him on the feet in the first round. And then what happened, though, it's just different when you're not a striker and you put all your energy into striking and you spend a lot of time like exerting yourself on the feet, or it can go the other way too. If you're a striker and you spend a lot of time exerting your stamina on the ground, it's like he just gassed out completely. And it was a majority draw, but Shogun did have a scorecard where he won, and Paul Craig had to, or the other two judges had it a draw, so it went down to the draw. But some people thought that if you didn't think the first round was a 10-8, then you'd think Shogun won because the second and third rounds weren't close. And Shogun actually out-grappled him. It's like, the thing about Paul Craig is, he's known for that triangle, but Shogun just has so much experience, man. Like, he's a hard guy at this point of his career to submit. He just, like, he's been fighting for so long, man. He's just got that veteran savvy to just weasel himself out of situations. And he's still got that power, man. It's the last thing to go. Especially when you get to these light, heavyweight divisions where you can rely on it a little bit more. It's like, honestly, like, this is a little closer than it should be. But I do think that Paul Craig should win. He's just like, when I watched the last fight, I didn't want to, but at the last minute I could not help myself, and I bet him against Nogueira, and it turned out to be a sweat. It was a close decision. It was a sweaty one, and I regretted betting on it. I was like, how did you make that so dicey? And it's like every fight, man, Shogun is seriously like, respect to him. He's an absolute legend, but man, like, he's just slowing down so much. And Paul Craig, just all he has to do is just come out with a semi-decent game plan, and he can easily win 2 rounds here and win this fight. As long as he doesn't come out and try to all of a sudden be a knockout artist when he has 1 knockout, and that's no disrespect. I like Paul Craig. If he just comes out with a decent game plan, and he can easily get this big, like, this will be a big win for him, man. I really hope that he can contain himself to just, like, fight a little bit smarter, hold that gas tank for just at least the first 2 rounds, man. If you want to coast in that 3rd round, hey, you are a submission threat off your back if he gets the wrestling. But I don't see being able to submit the legend, the veteran, and Mauricio Shogun, who I'm going to take Paul Craig by decision. There is a chance he gets caught, but I just feel like he's a decent parlay piece. I mean, I wouldn't go too crazy on him, but, watch this line because it seems like a lot of people are. I've been seeing a lot of people taking Shogun, and so that might influence people and, bring that line down. So if it does, maybe you can get, throw Craig into a couple last-minute parlays. But I'm going to be throwing Craig into a couple parlays. I know people might call that crazy, but it's like I bet Shogun in his last fight, and I don't see it in this one, man. He's got a puncher's chance, but I just will be so... I mean, Paul Craig's going to have to seriously shit the bed to lose 2 rounds again to Shogun. I really just feel like he was destroying Shogun in that first round, and he just got carried away, man. He wanted that. He wanted to knock out the legend so bad he got away from himself. He will really have to have the lowest fight IQ to come out and do that same shit. And if he doesn't do that, I mean, yeah, Shogun knows now that he does have a wrestling advantage, but, I think if Craig wasn't so gassed, I don't know if he would get out grappled so easily. So I feel like Craig gets this done, man. He should, at this point of their careers, man, he's literally in his absolute prime. This is the best we're going to see Craig. Mauricio has digressed so much. He's an absolute legend of the sport, but this is a cruel game. And I got Paul Craig by decision. So, moving on. We are going to go to Caitlin Chookagian taking on Cynthia Calvillo. And, man, this is a fight where this line is going to be impacted because Caitlin is coming off that, I'm recording this late, sorry. Caitlin Chookagian's coming off that bad finish over Jessica Andrade. But, I mean, if you were watching that fight, man, I mean, Andrade's a tank. And, I mean, it was a pretty competitive fight going into that. The thing is, I've been seeing a lot of people, a lot of people are saying, and I'm surprised and I reflected on the line because I'm seeing so many people and telling me I'm crazy for taking Cynthia in this because, I see where the path to victory is in Caitlin. If she's going to win, it's going to be a decision. And I thought about, so I got a little in my head at one point of the week, damn, is she going to just ha ya tennis matcher from the outside, fucking swinging at air? That shit works so well in the judges. Her style, it's so good at women's MMA. She's 5'9" at the weight class. She just throws these straight punches. They hit air. She has 40% striking percentage, landing percentage, but just that shit works so good. Just throwing volume at 70% air. And just fucking making a lot of noise and staying where she can't be hit. And, God, that game plan does work in not even, mid-level women's MMA. Thing is, man, Cynthia, I don't know, her personality used to throw me off a little bit, but, when it come down to her fight style, I know she hasn't fought, her biggest test was Carla Esparza, and she lost that fight. But, Jessica, she gets a lot of shit, but that was a good win, man. Everybody's like, oh, it was a boring fight. Man, who gives a fuck? We're talking about betting. I didn't care about that, man. She was taking her down easily. And Jessica, she gets a lot of shit, but, man, she's fought the who's who. She doesn't get dominated like that easily. So I was pretty impressed with that, with how Cynthia won that fight. I also had on DraftKings, and she fucking killed it for me there. So shout out to Cynthia. Fucking wasn't a huge fan of her until then, but Cynthia, her entries into her wrestling are clean, and I I think people underestimate her wrestling a little bit. I do think people underestimate Katlyn Chookagian's grappling a little bit. It's not bad at all, and she showed that against Antonina, where she came in, fought a completely different style, and out wrestled her. But I really feel like 3 rounds. If this was 5 rounds, I'd be a little scared. 3 rounds, I feel like Cynthia's gonna wrestle her, man. I feel like it's gonna be hard. Like that height's gonna work against her, and as long as Cynthia comes in with the right game plan, she's fighting a team alpha male who, it's been back and forth for them lately, but at the same time, like, they got smart veterans in their corner to tell them, like, yo, you know what you gotta do? You gotta do exactly what we do here. You need to fucking get on the inside and wrestle her ass. If you do that, I really feel like she can chain together a couple. It might not be the first, it might not be the second, but she chains her takedowns pretty well. And, like I said, I like her entries. I like just her to stay on the outside and work a couple. Like, she works her takedowns from her strikes pretty well. She only, for someone who only has 11 fights, like, I do agree, like, it's kind of crazy. People call her a prospect all the time when technically Katlyn is actually 2 years younger. But, Cynthia, I still feel like, she still only has 11 fights. Like, yeah, she's 33, but she's still, like, has a lot of potential. And I don't know, man. I think Cynthia's going to out-wrestle her. I think she's going to win a decision. I definitely feel like this fight's going the over and this fight's going to decision. I'm going to be parlaying this fight goes to decision as well, because that's another bit of a hedge spot, because I have Cynthia in a couple parlays, but I'm also going to have this fight going to decision in a couple parlays, because if anybody's getting a finish, it's going to be Cynthia. I don't think she will. I think Cynthia's going to win by decision, but if Katlyn wins, it will 100% be by decision. So it's a bit of a hedge spot there too, where even if Katlyn edges a decision by keeping it predominantly on the feet and just out-voluming her, I could still win money on the fight. So that's my play on the card. I do have her, Cynthia, in a couple parlays, which I'll read off at the end of the night or the end of the video. But and I also have the fight going to decision, like I said. And let's move on to the next fight, which is a pretty fucking crazy one. We got Mike Perry taking on Tim Means. And Mike Perry, man, I don't know where his head's at, because this guy's going through a lot right now. I don't want to go through details, but, like, the stuff going on, legal trouble in his life, like, and then you watch him in these interviews, and it's a whole different type of energy than he usually has. Like, I don't really like his vibe in these interviews he's been doing. And I understand why, with everything going on in his personal life. Oh, yep. And Tim Means, though, he fought a guy in Strapoli in his last fight, Staropoli. And I had him in that fight. Didn't bet him, but we picked him, and I slept on. I couldn't, because I was scared on that durability. And that's the big question in this fight. Tim Means, he's fought the much... Mike Perry's fought some tough guys, but, like, if you go through Means' career, like, he's got some impressive fights, even in some of these losses. Like, he's fought a lot of tough guys, and he's gave a good account of himself in a lot of them. And Mike Perry, he's a tough dude. That's one thing you cannot take from him. He's not training at a real camp. He's not getting that real sparring. He doesn't have a coach, but man, this motherfucker hits hard as hell, and he's super durable. And that's something you can't take away from him. The only dude that finished him, besides like with strikes, was Jeff Neal. And you got to think, Means does have power for being, like, you see his build, and you don't think he'd carry a lot of power, but dude can crack, and he likes to get on the inside, which could work against him on this fight, could get him clipped. You would think he would be smart to stay on the outside, but it does scare me a little bit. But the thing is, man, Means has the better wrestling. He's got the better jiu-jitsu. He's got the better cardio. Well, actually, the cardio might be a bit on par, but he's got got the more experience. He's fought more and the better guys. Tim Means has really everything on his side in this fight, but the durability and the power. Oh yeah, serious yawn. I'm having some serious yawnage going on right now. But Tim Means is sitting at like plus 135 right now, and I did take a stab on that. Plus 135. Or no. That's how you know I'm tired. I actually took Tim Means by decision plus 325. Thought about taking plus 135 straight up. But honestly, like Mike Perry's submission defense, like Donald Cerrone had to hit that perfect armbar to get him. And Jeff Neal cracks. Like that's Jeff Neal, the dark horse of the division. I don't think Tim Means going to get Mike Perry out of there. But I do think he stands a really good chance to win a decision. So I took the stab at Tim Means by decision, and that's the only play I can really do. I can't trust Mike Perry. Too many X factors with him. But, you know, he could. All he needs is one big punch on Tim Means, and it could very well happen. That's why I like the big plus money if I'm going to bet on this fight. And I got Tim Means by decision. And let's move on to the co-main event. In the co-main, we got Valentina Shevchenko taking on Jennifer Maia, and I'm not going to take too long on this one. I don't have anything you probably have not been hearing since this fight got booked. Jennifer Maia, you know, they're going to give her a lot of shit for being in this fight, or the UFC shit for booking this, but if you look at the division, who are they going to put in there? Well, Valentina has cleared out the division. I mean, you know, there's really not like an obvious choice. And Jennifer Maia, you know, she got that shoot-a-box style. She comes forward, throws with power. She had a good performance with that armbar against Joanne Calderwood, but that was a really bad performance by Calderwood. I know she said it after the fight, but she had an off night. Like, she passed out in the back. Like, that was a weird night. And Jennifer Maia, I mean, you know, I did a lot of tape for her in that Joanne Calderwood fight. And it's like, nothing she does is super, like, I just don't think she has the style to bring a whole lot to Valentina, who's so good everywhere. When she's just going to come forward, look to throw big shots, you know. She doesn't overextend a ton, but, you know, she just got that straight-up Brazilian shoot-a-box style where she's just going to come forward, throw big shots, like walk forward, and she's going to be walking right into the leg kicks, right into the combinations. Shevchenko will switch it to come up high. She got a nasty switch kick. She got a nasty clinch game. She's better on the ground when it comes to jiu-jitsu and the wrestling. She's literally has every advantage in this fight. I think she is better everywhere. I do think Jennifer's tough, and that's why, and her durability is going to be her, like, that's her strength. Which is why the only thing I could possibly do in this fight is take the over 2.5 at minus 135. And I think that's a pretty good bet because I do feel like there's a good chance she's going to stick in there for a solid 3-4 rounds, or at least 3. I think Shevchenko will get her out of there by like the 4th, 5th round. I do think she'll get her out of there, but it won't be till late. She'll take her time, find the openings, wear her out, and then pick her off towards the end. I won't take too long on this one. I'm going to take Shevchenko, 4th round, probably a KO or, you know, TKO. But, you know, she could finish her a lot of ways. She's just better everywhere. I don't want to chase a KO or sub prop because she could finish her a lot of ways. She could also just dominate her for 5 rounds. But I'm going to go the over 2.5 for this one and probably stay off of it. And let's move on to this main event. Main event, we got the God of War, Deiveson Figueiredo taking on Alex Perez. And Perez is sitting at a pretty sizable favorite, even though I think that came down a little bit. Yeah, it came down a little, minus 280 to 300, depending on what book. And, I mean, honestly, when you go through Alex Perez, it's like he has been submitted 4 times. He's been knocked out once. Only knockout to Joseph Benavidez, who obviously, not trying to do MMA math, has been absolutely dominated by Figueiredo in his last 2 fights. But Perez, he's pretty legit. I mean, early on, has a decent amount of fights, decent amount of experience. Like I said, been submitted 4 times. Could be a bit of a red flag because Figueiredo, man, he's known for his power, but honestly, people sleep on his submission game and his jiu-jitsu. He's got an absolutely sick guillotine, and then just his jiu-jitsu is just over the years has just gotten so much better, top and bottom. He's good everywhere, man. This guy is super dangerous. The only thing is, man, the big advantage I'd give Perez is just cardio. If it goes into later rounds, it could get a little dicey. The problem is, man, to get into the later rounds, I really feel like Alex is going to have to use the amount of wrestling that's going to kind of even out the scale when it comes to the cardio. Because, man, I really feel like early on, Alex Perez does have great leg kicks. He gets right on those calf kicks, and I love to see that when I'm betting fighters. The problem is, man, even though he has a bit of a height advantage, they have it listed as 1 inch here, and I think 2 inches on ShareDog. I have to check the official UFC site. I think it's the same as here, 5'5", 5'6", but Figgy has a little bit of a reach advantage, and he fights long too, and he's got that long cross and from both stances, and he's got those mean shots up the middle with the uppercuts and knees, and man, he's gonna be giving you a lot of threats, a lot of feints, which is gonna kind of draw off the shots a little bit, and the leg kicks, man. If you just try to just throw those calf kicks out, man, Figgy's gonna tag you. He hits hard, and man, those leg kicks are great. But when you're fighting a guy like Figueiredo, man, it's it only takes one that you throw. I mean, you saw what happened to Abdul Razak last week. His opponent threw a leg kick. He went to return one, and as he lifted his leg to throw it, he got blasted, and that's how he got KO'd. And Figgy, I think he has the most knockdowns in flyweight history, and this dude cracks, man. He's the most dangerous finisher at flyweight, and I honestly think that a sub prop is live here. I think it's plus 600 or something, and I think there's I think there's value there. I actually I'm looking at that now. Taking maybe Figgy by sub, but I'm looking at some props right now. Probably going to be looking to choose one right at the end of this, but I definitely trying to pick which book I can get the sub prop at best. But I've seen it 5-6 to 1, and because I think everybody thinks it's just going to be a knockout, but I do think Figgy's going to get this inside the distance. If it gets to the 4th and 5th round, it could get a little dicey, but I just think that Perez, to get on that amount of wrestling, he needed to extend the fight, which is what he needs to do, because Figueiredo, if he has a weakness, it's going to be the gas tank. Perez, if he has a strength or if he has an advantage, it's going to be the wrestling and the cardio. And I mean, on the feet, he's got the leg kicks. The leg kicks are going to be, he's going to have to work those in, but he's going to have to be safe when he does it. He's going to have to throw those low kicks in those early first round or two, not rush the takedown. He's going to have to just do his best to stay safe on the feet for a bit, because if he rushes the takedowns when Figgy's fresh, he's going to eat something big, get knocked out. Like I said, I'm probably going to take Figgy by guillotine. I'm going to say 2nd or 3rd round. Probably 3rd round. Because I do think Perez, he's a tough dude. He has been finished a couple of times, but I know he wants this fight. He's going to come in, and he's going to bring a fight to Figgy, and he's a tough dude. And I looked at this line. I wanted to find something to, make me want to take a dog shot, but I just can't. I got Figgy in some parlays. I'm looking at the sub prop. I did take the fight starts round 3 because I think there's a recency bias. Figgy's looked like an absolute mauler, but this is still flyweight. Perez is a tough guy. While he has been finished a couple times, 4 times, plus 140 on fight goes the third round. I like the value on that. Again, like I talk about this, a little bit of a hedge spot because I have Davison in a lot of parlays. If Perez wins, he's not going to finish. I'd be really surprised if he finished Figgy in the first 2 rounds. So if Perez wins and spoils a couple of my parlays, I'll get my fight goes the third round prop. And I also feel like Figueiredo, like he could win this in the third, fourth. He could still win a decision. It's not like I think he has a terrible gas tank. He doesn't. He just, I would say Perez is a better gas tank. And, people when you throw with the amount of power he does, yeah, I mean, you're gas and you're an explosive guy like he is. Like, gas tank's not going to be your strength, but I do think he can fight for 5 rounds. I mean, this is flyweight at the end of the day. These guys can fight for 25 minutes, and hey, I'm not discounting that at all. It's because they're in such amazing shape. I'm just saying, I think people are reading into it a little too much. Like, oh man, if he goes past the second round, Figgy's gonna be gassed. I don't. Yeah, he fights at a high pace, but he controls his volume. I think he's only getting better. He's only learning. I think Figgy's going to get the finish here, but I'd like my half hedge spot with the fight goes to round 3. Now, that's not because I'm not confident in Figgy. That's just I like that spot both ways. It's a win-win. So I'm going to take Davison Figueiredo. Honestly, probably most likely second round guillotine, but I like third round. Obviously he could knock him out, but I think people are sleeping a little bit on his chances for a sub. 6-1. I like it. Okay, well, if I'm saying my most likely scenario, probably gets him out of there. No, I'm sticking with guillotine, man. I honestly feel like that might be more likely than the knockout, man. Honestly, Perez, it's going to take a lot. Even his one knockout to Joseph Benavidez those some sketchy shots for the finish and a weird stoppage. He's tough as shit. I don't know. Figgy, definitely, if anybody could knock him out, it'd be Figgy. But I honestly think it might be that. He might beat him up on the feet for a bit, and then Alex going to shoot a little bit sloppy, get caught in that super tight guillotine, and that'll be the show. But so give me Figgy by second round guillotine. But I do have fight goes to round 3. Don't get confused. Again, that's because it's a win-win either way that fight goes. So, yeah, you could come in there and knock him out in the first round, but I don't know, man. I think most likely this fight goes into at least the second, and he's going to get a submission in one of those middle rounds. But Perez is tough, man. So we'll see. I like Figgy's chances, though. I'm going to have him in some parlays. I'm going to look at that sub prop. So let's go over my bets real quick. We got fight round starts round 3 in the Davison Figueiredo Perez fight. I have Brandon Royval straight, and I have Brandon Moreno by decision. I have Dustin Stoltzfus plus 250 straight up. I have the over 2.5 for Jennifer Maia and Valentina Shevchenko. And I have fight starts round 3 for Daniel Rodriguez and Nicholas Dalby. And I have Tim Means by decision at plus 325. I have Fight goes the decision for Kyle Daukaus and Dustin Stoltzfus. I have Cosce by submission. Totally forgot how to say his name in the middle of the video. Said it right at the beginning. FML. I forgot to let you guys know that I 14-1. That's a good one. And then I think that's it for my straight picks. Yep. Now, as far as my parlays, first parlay I made was Cynthia Calvillo and Davison Figueiredo. I have another parlay with Cynthia Calvillo, Paul Craig, Davison Figueiredo, and D-Rod. I have I have Davison. I have the over 1.5 for Davison Figueiredo and Alex Perez, and the over 2.5 for Caitlin Chookagian and Cynthia Calvillo. Those two parlayed up. Don't get confused. That wasn't to win. That was the over 2.5 for Caitlin and Chookagian, and the over 1.5 for the Davison Figueiredo fight. And next parlay I have Cynthia Calvillo versus Caitlin Chookagian over 2.5 again, with Daniel Rodriguez and Buckley. That's another 3-leg parlay. And then I have the over again for Cynthia Calvillo, Caitlin Chookagian, 2.5. I have that parlayed with Davison Figueiredo and Paul Craig. And that is going to be it so far. I will be looking at that sub prop for the main event. I will be looking at a couple other plays. I have, obviously, as you can see, a lot of action on this card. It's spread out pretty well, but decent amount of action. I like to spread it out. Most of those are 1-unit plays. And, certain props, like obviously my Cosce for Sasha first round sub, not first round, just Cosce by sub 14-1, and that's only 0.2 of a unit, and but other than that, everything's a 1-unit play. We'll see about that sub prop, and we'll see about a couple last-minute plays, but that's going to be it for me on this one. I appreciate you guys watching. This is a long one. There will be timestamps on the bottom, as well as my Twitter and Twitch link. I'll be live for the fights, as always. Be tweeting out all my plays. If you want to see it written out, I'll be tweeting those out the day of the fights. If you want them early, or if you have a question about anything, hit me up in the comments, or tweet me, or come into the stream, whatever. Make sure you leave me a comment. Make sure you drop a like. Shout out to anybody who watched this whole video. This is a long one. You saw like 50 yawns. It's late as fuck. I'm going to get some sleep. Appreciate you watching. Come through on Twitch. It's going to be fun. Be talking fights. I don't know who's going to come in and watch the fights with me in the chat. On the mic. But, everybody will be in the chat. We'll be watching the fights, betting on the fights. I'll be looking for some live bets. If I make them, I'll probably tweet them out too. Other than that, man, I appreciate you guys, man. Sticking with me almost an hour and a half. Drop a comment, leave a like, drop a sub, and peace. I'll see you for the fights.